Chapter 40, The Gifts. It seemed fitting that at this point in my story of Phoebe, Gramps would call out, "I-D-ho!" We were high in the mountains and had just crossed the Montana border into Idaho. For the first time, I believed we were going to make it to Lewiston by the next day, the 20th of August, my mother's birthday. Gramps suggested we press on to Coeur d'Alene, about an hour away, where we could spend the night. From there, Lewiston was 100 miles due south. It was an easy morning's journey. How does that sound to you, Gooseberry? Gram was still, her head pressed against the back of the seat and her hands folded in her lap. Gooseberry? When Gram spoke, you could hear the rattle in her chest. "Oh, that's fine," she said. "Gooseberry, are you feeling okay?" "I'm a little tired," she said. "Well, we'll get you to bed real soon." Gramps glanced back at me, troubled. "Gram, if you want to stop now, that would be okay," I said. "Oh, no," she said. "I'd like to sleep in Coeur d'Alene tonight. Your mama sent us a postcard from Coeur d'Alene, and it was on a bountiful, beautiful lake." She coughed a long, rattly cough. Gramps said, "Okay, then. Beautiful Bounty Blue Lake, here we come." Gram said, "I'm so glad Peebee's mama came home. I wish your mama could come home too." Gramps nodded his head for about 5 minutes, and then he handed me a tissue and said, "Tell us about Mrs. Partridge. What was she doing leaving the gall-dang envelope on Peebee's porch?" "That's what Phoebe and I wanted to know. Did you want something, Mrs. Partridge?" I asked. She put her hands to her lips. She said. Phoebe snatched the envelope and ripped it open. She read the message aloud. "Don't judge a man until you've walked 2 moons in his moccasins." Mrs. Partridge turned to go. "Bye-bye," she said. "Mrs. Partridge," Phoebe called. "We've already had this one." "I beg your pardon," Mrs. Partridge said. "It was you, wasn't it?" Phoebe said. "You've been creeping around leaving these things, haven't you?" "Didn't you like them?" Mrs. Partridge said as she stood there in the middle of the sidewalk with her head tilted up at us with a quizzical look on her face. She looked like a mischievous child. "Margaret reads them to me from the newspaper each day, and when there's a nice one, I ask her to copy it down. I'm sorry, I gave that one about the moccasins already. My noggin, it just forgot." "But why did you bring them here?" Phoebe said. "I thought they would be grandful surprises for you, like fortune cookies, only I didn't have any cookies to put them in. Did you like them anyway?" Phoebe looked at me for a long minute. Then she went down the steps and said, "Mrs. Partridge, when did you meet my brother?" "You said you didn't have a brother," Mrs. Partridge said. "I know, but you said you met him. When was that?" She tapped her head. "Noggin, remember. Let's see, some time ago, a week, 2 weeks. He came to my house by mistake. He let me feel his face, and that's why I thought he was your brother. He has a similar face. It's weird." Phoebe said, "No more weird than most things lately." As Mrs. Partridge tottered back to her house, Phoebe said, "It's a weird world, Sal." She walked across the grass and spit into the street. She said, "Come on, try it." I spit into the street. "What do you think?" Phoebe said. We both spit again. It might sound disgusting, but to tell the truth, we did a great deal of pleasure from those spits. I doubt if anyone ever could explain why that was, but for some reason it seemed like the perfect thing to do. And when Phoebe turned around and went into her house, I knew that was the right thing for her to do too. With the courage of that spit in me, I went to see Margaret Cadaver. We had to have a long talk, and that's when I found out how she met my father. It was painful to talk with her, and I even cried in front of her. But afterwards, I understood why my father liked to be with her. Ben was sitting on my front step when I got home. He said, "I brought you something. It's out back." He led me around the side of the house, and there, strutting across a little patch of grass, was a chicken. I was never in my life so happy to see a chicken. Ben said, "I named it, but you can change its name if you want." When I asked him what its name was, he leaned forward, and I leaned forward, and another kiss happened. A spectacular kiss, a perfect kiss. And Ben said, Its name is Blackberry. Oh, Graham said. Is that the end of the Peavy story? Yes, I said. That wasn't quite true, I suppose. I could have told more. I could have told her about Phoebe getting adjusted to having a brother and to her new mother and all of that, but that part was still going on, even as we traveled through the mountains. It was a whole different story. I like that story about Peavy, and I'm glad it wasn't too awfully sad. Graham closed her eyes, and for the next hour, as Graham strove toward Coeur d'Alene, he and I listened to her rattly breathing. I watched her lying there so still, so calm. Gramps, I whispered. She looks a little gray, doesn't she? Yes, she does, Chickabiddy. Yes, she does. He stepped on the gas, and we raced toward Coeur d'Alene. Chapter 40, The Gifts. Okay, you got to start it over. Or just let me read it again. You'll cut that out. I don't know why I said hi. It just seemed natural to say hi. And then you made such a dorky face to go like, duh. I'm ready when you are. Is it recording still? Yeah. Chapter